Right, to the markets, the JSE All-Share ending up about 0.75% in the red this afternoon. The market was chiefly pulled down by those resource and mining shares, and with the volatile rand losing about 30 cents against the US dollar today, and we're quite used to that seesaw movements. Nadir Token is with SEI Investments. He joins me now. Nadir, thanks very much for talking to us. I mean, oil falling to a 6-month low, all right? We've got recession fears in the United States once again, so you understand why that's happening. But I would imagine that pretty much set the tone for what happened to the markets today, didn't it?
Yeah, Devin, it has. And it's actually set the tone for what's happened to the markets for, the last little while. We're seeing that, obviously these oil prices have come off their extreme highs a couple of months ago to, around about $90 a barrel. And you covered it in the last story. That's going to give a lot of reprieve to motorists and, hopefully going to cause inflation to roll over. But the biggest issue is that, there's very stark inflation, which is still present in a lot of developed markets and actually, still coming in kind of close to or even in excess of 40-year highs, whether you're talking about the UK, the US, inflation picking up in Europe as well. And this is forcing central banks' hands to kind of tighten monetary policy a lot quicker than expected. And as a result of that, we're seeing very early indicators that the global economy is rolling over and economic activity is rolling over. And there is a significant amount of concern that the US and, closely followed by other developed markets are going to be pushed into a recession.
Yep.
And obviously that drives down kind of demand for risky assets. We've seen the rand has been pretty weak on the back of that, although it's strengthened off of its lows. We've seen commodity prices have come under intense pressure, across the board, not just oil, but any kind of industrial metal has come under quite a lot of pressure over the course of the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks. And all in all, Devin, it's very volatile out there at the moment. So, we saw a big recovery in global markets in the month of July. We've seen that continue to August in general, although a far more mixed picture today. We're actually markets in composite coming under a little bit of pressure. Having said that, there are a slew of results that have come out, and both locally and globally, those earnings expectations have been a lot better than what the market has expected. So that is providing some buoyancy selectively across the market.
I want to talk about the miners. I mean, they didn't have a great day today, but Sibanye-Stillwater, their misfortunes go beyond what happened today. Am I right? It tells us earlier today that strike earlier in the year and lower prices for commodities will halve its profits. It's big news from a miner of this size.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Devin. And remember, this is the miner that has been very acquisitive in the way that they that they got to their growth numbers previously. So it just kind of shows how leveraged they are to the commodity cycle, and why the stock prices in particularly these types of companies, and especially in the precious metal space, tend to be as volatile as what they are, because you have the scenario where they're very operationally and financially leveraged these commodity prices. They have very little control over those commodity prices. And when they have lost production, and when you couple that with a decline in those commodity prices, this is the kind of impact that you see. Now, the gold price in rand terms, which is ultimately what matters to Sibanye, is not off all of that much, because, yes, gold prices have been fairly flat and the rand's or slightly down, and the rand has weakened a little bit. But, you're talking about a 50% reduction in the headline earnings. That's as a result of lost output because of the strike, and just shows how operationally leveraged they are to that. And that's why their price swings about as wildly as they do, both on the upside and the downside.
I got a couple of seconds. I want to ask you, I see the Reserve Bank today saying it's worried about our grey listing internationally, our ability as banks and lenders to sort of prevent money laundering. The SARB now raising these concerns. I mean, how bad could this be for the country, Nadir, very briefly?
Yeah, it's not great, Devin. That's the bottom line. If we lock out of the global financial system, or increase due diligence of going into the global financial system, that increases our cost of capital, increases our cost of borrowing. You mentioned earlier on, we've got the medium-term budget policy statement coming up. Well, if we're paying away more of our budget towards servicing debt, that obviously isn't a great outcome for South Africa. So that is really the primary concern here, is that the cost of our borrowing is going to go up and the cost of servicing our debt is going to be higher, and there's going to be less money left over to do other things, ultimately.
Well, we'll leave it there. Nadir Token is with SEI Investments. Thanks very much indeed for your time.